Chapter 7 The Adventure of the Nameless Knight. It was not always that the splendid way was a difficult way and perilous. Even in the Valley of Toil, there were days of fair traveling, with soft green sward beneath the feet, and the music of sunny streams for joyous companion. There were nights also of sweet and dreamless rest, when the stars above were kindly sentinels, and the breath of the night breeze was a breath of peace. So it came when Sir Constant came to the place of fair waters. Through the valley ran a broad and pleasant stream, bordered by spacious meadows. Lovely were the waters of the stream, and noble was their bounty, and there were many flocks upon those meadows. For the stream made for them a home of peace and plenty. On the second day he had passed this region, and had entered the stern and rugged hills above the valley. The broad stream was now but a voice among the rocks, while the meadows of plenty were far behind. Then it was that he had this adventure of the night nameless. Close beside the way was a little hill, and in the shelter of the hill a kept and guarded well. There was a seat beside the well, and a hut, the dwelling of the well warden. But the place was lonely, shadowed by frowning hills, and far away from the laughter and sunshine of the fair waters. It was high noon when Constant came to this place, and he turned aside to the well with a glad heart. But when his footsteps sounded upon the stone, the door of the hut was thrown wide, and a man came hastily forth to meet him. This was an aged man, meanly clad and so feeble that he stumbled as he walked. Yet there was still a glow in his heart. And when he saw the shield of the royal service, his pale cheeks flushed. "Oh, my good lord," he cried, "art you a knight of the splendid way?" Then our knight said, "I am of the great king's service, and my name is Constant. It was my desire to rest a while by this well." With great gladness the old man welcomed him, saying with quivering tongue that he had never found greater joy in greeting any traveler. He bade him sit down on the seat beside the wall, and then brought from the hut two water vessels and a store of food. "Eat, Sir Constant, and drink," he said, "but first look into the water and see that it is pure." The knight looked down into the deep and shadowed water. "What do you see?" quavered the old man. "Is the water pure?" "It is pure," answered Sir Constant, "for in its depths I see plainly the emblem of the great king." "Then shall you drink in his name," said the old man, "for this is one of his wells." So they refreshed themselves together, sitting there in the shadow of the hill, and the old well warden began to ask Sir Constant of his journey. With eager tongue he questioned him, and again his cheeks flushed when he heard of the perils of the way, of the glory of Sir Felix and Sir Valorous. He seemed to love these tales, and they could not weary him. Yet when they were told, a sudden silence fell. The warden's cheeks were pale once more, and instead of eagerness, his eyes were filled with a strange, sad yearning. And as a child's a little afraid, he put out his hand to touch the shield of many battles. Anon Sir Constant spoke of the star of the casement and the vision of the face. The warden, hearing him with eager wonder, and when this was told, the old man said, "The star is a sign for the loyal heart of knighthood. and the vision is the guide to high endeavor. I would have loved to be a knight, but the honor was not for me. Yet even I, have dreamed that I saw the star in the face. Once, when I looked for the king's emblem in the silent depths of the well, it seemed to me that a strange, bright star shone there at the head of the emblem. And once, when I had seven lowly travelers at my table here, I deemed that one face shone with a great glory. Yet it must have been a dream, for when I looked again, I saw but a shepherd from some distant pasture. Now there was truth in his voice and in his faded eyes, though strange it seemed that one so lowly should dream of the star in the face. Then the warden said again wistfully, "My time is far spent, and soon I must give my task to another. In this hour you have come, and I ask this one thing of you, that you remain with me until the end." "Good brother and comrade," said Sir Constant, "is that all that I may do?" "It is all," answered the warden, and so it was agreed between them. Thus it was that Sir Constant came to break his journey at the lowly well, his heart full of compassion and wonder. That day he stayed there, and through the nights, and for those hours he was warden of the well, caring gently for the old man, who was too weak to care for himself. In those hours there was much pleasant converse, for in his 40 years the old man had given shelter to many, both lowly and gentle, strong and weak, young and old. But Constant did not speak of himself and his adventures, save as the old man questioned him. For when they came to these things, he saw in his eyes that shadow of wonder and wistful which he had seen in the first telling of his story. But he found great gladness in those hours to see how the warden kept his charge. For while he waited there, he saw many travelers pause at that quiet wellside for rest and refreshment. When they came, the warden would greet them eagerly, going out to meet them. He would offer food and water, but ever with the same words. "Look into the well and see if the water is pure. What do you see there?" And when the traveler had seen the emblem of the great king shining in the still depths, he would give him a drink, saying, "In the king's name, for this is his well." And in his face at this saying there was such joy and pride as may not be described. Sir Constant saw this, and at first wondered, but at last he perceived that beyond all the old man's lowly service lay a faith and loyalty that could not be shaken. When he saw this, he loved him well, and wondered still more at his strange story. Surely such gifts had been better used in a nobler place. And after that it came to him often the cry of the old well warden, "In the king's name," though but the frail and quavering motto of a humble servant, had kinship with the battle cry of a noble knight in close and deadly fight. On the morrow the warden was in great weakness, yet as the sun rose high his heart began to be warmed, and he made Sir Constant bear him forth to the well side. There he said he would still keep watch in service till the end. So when a traveller came, it was the warden that greeted him, and bade him look into the well. And when he had seen the emblem in the water, it was the aged warden that gave him to drink. So the day declined, and the sun sank in the bed of glory in the west. And Sir Constant watching, saw a purple cloud rise beautiful and somber in the form of a mighty horseman with a mighty plume. When he saw this, he thought of the silent horseman of the parting of the ways. The last to come that way was a shepherd, clad in a shepherd's cloak and bearing a shepherd's staff. He had toiled all day through the rocky pass, and must now seek a shelter for the night. Gentle he was and quiet of speech, but his bearing had the signs of authority and decision, so that when he spoke, Sir Constant said in his heart, "Surely he is a chief shepherd." "Shelter I will give you gladly," said the well warden. "Here is water and food. But first, look into the well and see what lies therein." So the shepherd looked, and when he raised his hand, he saw and raised his head, they saw in his eyes a reflection of those deep, still waters. "It is pure," he answered gently. "I see plainly, O warden, the emblem of your king." "Ay, for this is one of his wells," said the warden. "Drink in the king's name." "In the king's name," said the shepherd reverently, and after that he took food with them and joined in their talk. "It was but lately," said Constant, "that I came from the lower valley where the shepherds tend their flocks. It comes to me now that I saw you there." "Even so," answered the shepherd, "I come from that fertile valley called the Place of Fair Waters, where I have many flocks." Then said the warden, "Where is the Place of Fair Waters that so many speak of? When I came on this path, there was rocky wilderness above and swamp and marshland below." "So it was upon a time," said the shepherd, "when this well was unkempt and uncleansed. But there came at last a warden who daily guarded the well, and opened the channel for its overflow, so that this place might be fair and clean. So in a while the overflow became a brook, and anon a powerful stream. This gathered to its bosom other streams, till at last there was a valley wide and fruitful, through which a noble river ran joyously to the great sea. And so it is today." The old man listened, wondering, for the voice of the shepherd had the thrill of music, but he spoke still more. "So clear and noble is the stream that travelers say, surely this flows from a royal well, one of those eternal springs which the great king has set for the help of the people. There are the children, too, who play by the stream and cry. See, the face of the king smiles in the water. I have walked there and seen these things." Wondering, the old man pondered these sayings. The old man listened, wondering, for the voice of the shepherd had the thrill of music. Slowly his eyes brightened as a fond thought came to his lips in words. "Do they speak of me? Do they know who guards the well?" Tenderly the shepherd looked into the old man's eyes. Tenderly he answered him, "Nay, they know nothing of you. What they know is the king's bounty. What they see is the king's smile." Then Constant looked, fearing to see a shadow fall upon the old man's eager hope. But the old man was looking into the shepherd's face, and the shadow never came again. Instead, his hope brightened into joy as he clasped his hands together and cried, "Oh, that is enough! Oh, my heart, surely it is enough! It is 10,000 times more than enough!" And from that moment, some thought which had troubled him long troubled him no more. Then, as the evening shadows gathered in the gorge and the stillness deepened, the shepherd said, Truly, this place is a lonely place, and it is as lonely as the post held so long by that good knight whom we call Sir Nameless. They looked to him to tell them more, and he told them, his voice full of tenderness, at the first yet presently strong, as with the ring of battle. When he was a young knight, he was eager-hearted, as the young should be, fired with the hope of youth and fortified by the courage of faith. He dreamed of high adventure, yet not for his own glory, but for the king's. What men had dared, he could dare. What men had done, he could do. So he set out, desiring some great charge, in which he might prove himself worthy. But hear the wonder of the story of Sir Nameless. In a few days he found among the hills a lonely outpost of the king's, so lonely that its guardian's heart had failed and he had gone away. But it seemed to Sir Nameless that the post must be held, and he resolved that he would hold it till another guardian came. But no guardian came to hold it, not that day nor the next, nor through many days. And since the post might not be left, it came to pass that this good knight held it alone for many years, unknown and unregarded. Other men he saw go by to do the great deeds that he might have done, but for him there was no release, no call to nobler duty. So passed the years of his strength and prime, till his force was spent, and his youthful hopes abandoned. Nay, better had he forgotten them, for their memory was a torment to an eager and stormy heart, a question that he could not answer. But never for a day was that lonely post left unguarded. The shepherd paused, as though in sadness, yet there was a smile upon his lips. "Sad and strange your tale," said Sir Constant. "Tell us more, I pray." "Sad indeed, as men might see it, was the lot of Sir Nameless," answered the shepherd. "But I have told it only as men might see it. Now hear how it seemed to the great king, for that lonely outpost was his, and he had chosen Sir Nameless to be its guardian. Here is a lonely post, he had said, set upon a rocky road and overshadowed by gloomy hills, so cold and cheerless that the guardian has wearied of his duty. Yet it is a guardian post for many leagues of the road. The need here is for a knight, king of honor and immovable in courage. For in this lonely place he will be openly attacked by the Black Knight, the sorcerer of many faces, and by the Whisperer, Master Envy, with all his evil brood, and by that subtle enchanter, the Grey Questioner. So the king has chosen Sir Nameless, knowing his name full well, and had shown him that lonely charge, and he had kept it faithfully, despite the torment of an eager and stormy heart, despite the daily assaults of the Black Knights, never so dangerous as when he comes disguised as high desire and noble purpose. But since that eager and stormy heart was a lowly heart, he did not know that his name was high in honor on the king's roll. Again the shepherd paused, smiling at some fair picture in his mind. And this time they did not question him, for they saw that this was to him a well-loved story. In a while he went on. So the years sped to the last day, when Sir Nameless must deliver up his charge, and on that day came the Black Knight once more, with the last temptation of his subtle tongue. It was not a great task, he said, but you have served much people by it. Surely some honor is due you for this. But Sir Nameless was loyal to the end, and rebuked him instantly. No, he said, not to me, but to the king only. Whereupon the Black Knight left him, to come no more. But Sir Nameless, not knowing that he was a victor, went to his rest and dreamed. He dreamed that he was in the king's city, the city of light beyond the eastern hills, standing to hear the roll call of the king's knights. The roll was called in a voice that seemed to ring out over land and sea, and to conquer time and space. And it was the great names, was as the great names were spoken, great voices answered, with joy that might not be measured. But as Sir Nameless listened in wonder, for he loved those great names well, he heard one say at his side, Be ready, sir, for your name is on the roll. And lo, ere he might wonder more, a name was called, his own name, and he knew the king's voice, for it spoke to his heart and told him that he had never been forgotten. So in his dream he gave a glad cry, Here, Lord! And when he cried thus, he woke and found that it was not a dream. Now the voice of the shepherd at the end of his story was filled with gentle music, so that the heart of the warden was touched and moved. In a while he said wistfully that Sir Nameless had been a true and gallant knight, and that he would have loved to meet him. But so lowly was his heart that he did not dream that he might take that story as his own. Whereat the shepherd smiled again, well pleased, and there was silence for a space. But presently the warden touched Sir Constant and murmured in his ear, Who is this shepherd guest of ours? Surely he is the one who was here on the night that brought me the vision of the face. But not then only, for I feel that I have seen him many times. Then Sir Constant soothed the old man, supposing that his thoughts were failing, and as the shadows were closing down, he bore him into the house and laid him upon his couch. Then the warden said to the shepherd, I am honored to have you in my house this night in the king's name. For you are for you is the guest chamber ready, and this good knight will watch with me. Not so, said the shepherd. Let your comrade take the guest chamber if he will. I must watch with you as I have watched with many. It is for this that I have come. Now they saw that the shepherd would not be denied, even had they the will to deny him. But he spoke with authority that they could not do so. Therefore it was agreed that both should watch that night. Yet when the warden had fallen asleep, the shepherd bade Sir Constant also rest, for he would take the first watch. Therefore in the second hour Sir Constant sank into slumber gentle and peaceful, yet so light that he could know all that passed in the chamber. For the voice of the shepherd was one that might reach men's hearts, even in their sleep. It was about midnight when that the warden was awakened, and it was a whisper that wakened him, the whisper of a name. He looked up in great wonder. Who spoke my name? He cried. It was I, said the shepherd, for I know it well. On the king's roll it is high in honor. What is this? Said the warden. How can you know? Who should know better now? Smiled the shepherd. I am chief shepherd of the valley of toil, and I water my flocks by the king's waters. Surely the guardians of the king's wells are known to me, and this your charge is one of the noblest and most bountiful of the king's wells. The old man gazed, with great unspoken questions upon his lips, and the shepherd said, Never for an hour were you forgotten, for I came often to see him who kept the well. On the first day I came, and on every day with every soul in need. And when they said, Here is the well warden, I said in my heart, Here is our good knight, the keeper of the king's well, whose name is held in honor in this great city. For the king forgets none who are faithful, and has much love for those nameless knights who keep his lonely outposts, making beautiful many leagues of the splendid way, and feeding many flocks by the fair waters of the king's bounty. Still the old man gazed, full of wonder. Now he raised himself to speak. But, sir, I had no battle to fight, such as I dreamed of, and my heart ever full of discontent. Nay, said the shepherd, smiling, have I not told you that was the battle of the Black Knight, never so perilous as in his disguise of high desire and noble purpose. This day did he leave you forever. But see, now, what gift I have for you, to wear in the king's presence. Wanly the old man smiled, yet his eyes shone, for then the king, then the shepherd, took his sword, a gallant sword, and laid it at his right hand. A shield also he brought, a shield whose emblem glowed and burned, and this he laid at the warden's left side. Then he brought a helmet, strong and knightly, and a shining breastplate, and laid these also beside him. See now your arms, he said, how the helmet gleams and the shield glows. These are the arms that a nameless knight has won, to wear in the king's city. But hearken now, and find that your name is known indeed, for the king calls the roll. Then deep was the silence that fell, while the knight nameless seemed to listen. But in a moment he stirred, and grasped his hilt, and gave a great cry that rang joyously through the silent house, and out to the lonely hillside in the well. Hear, Lord, as you have therefore received Christ Jesus the Lord, so walk you in him, rooted and built up in him, established in the faith, as you have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. Colossians 2:6 through 8.